listen to him, man.
So Caitlin Clark, third season in the WNBA, has already set the record. She had another game in which she had at least 20 points and 10 assists. And I have been saying when she broke into the league, people said her comp is Steph Curry. Now, I think stylistically, the way she plays her game has got some Steph Curry. I think, though, in terms of an icon...
Colin Cowherd went on record and stated she is not the coach for CC, bruh. Now listen to NBC reporters during the game, y'all.
Caitlin Clark has been responsible for 38 of Indiana's 77.
Calm down, everybody, and definitely don't read the comments. But whatever the case may be, Caitlin Clark needs her Phil Jackson. And as of right now, the closest thing to Caitlin Clark, Phil Jackson, is Lisa Bluter. And the Indiana Fever need to figure out a way to get that young lady. I'm gonna call her young.
And I've always felt her game is Steph. I think she has a chance to be Jordan-esque, which is multiple championships if she can get the right coach and the right running mate. And I think she has that player.
Y'all see that? Y'all see that slight at Stephanie White? He says she has the right player, but she don't got the right coach. Caitlin Clark need her feet.
Year 4. So Caitlin comes into the league, rookie sensation. Year 2, last year she's hurt. Year 3, okay, her stats are great again. When is she going to start winning at the next level? She has not won a playoff series yet. And so my take is...
Colin Cowherd just dropped a nuclear bomb on the entire WNBA establishment, and the fallout is absolutely devastating. He looked straight into the camera on national television and said what millions of Caitlin Clark fans have been screaming for weeks: she needs a better coach. Not adjustments, not tweaks, a completely different coach. And the timing couldn't be more explosive because just hours before Cowherd's takedown, Stephanie White proved exactly why she's the wrong person for this job with the most tone-deaf press conference response in WNBA history. Here's what happened that has the entire basketball world losing their minds. The Indiana Fever just lost to Washington in double overtime, but that's not the story. The story is what Caitlin Clark did in the fourth quarter when her team was dying. She was struggling all game, shooting 4 of 20 through 3 quarters, looking completely lost in White's archaic system. Then something magical happened. Clark went into full superstar mode, dropped 17 points in the fourth quarter, hit 5 3-pointers, and single-handedly erased a 9-point deficit. She dragged her team back from complete humiliation through pure individual brilliance. This was the kind of performance that defines careers, the kind of moment that separates superstars from role players. And then Stephanie White absolutely destroyed everything with her post-game response. A reporter asked her directly about Clark's heroic fourth-quarter performance, specifically about those clutch 3-pointers that saved the team from disaster. White's answer: she completely ignored Caitlin Clark. Instead, she praised the team's resilience and talked about collective effort and everyone buying in. She managed to answer an entire question about Clark's 17-point explosion without ever mentioning Clark's name. It was like watching someone actively try to diminish their own franchise player on live television. The disrespect was so blatant, so intentional, that fans immediately started calling for White's job. But here's where the hypocrisy gets absolutely sickening. Minutes later in that same press conference, when asked about Kelsey Mitchell, who started the game 0 for 7, White suddenly remembered how to praise individual players. She said she was speechless, and that Mitchell put the team on her back. So when Clark saves the franchise with a legendary fourth-quarter performance, it's team effort. When Mitchell hits a few shots after a terrible start, she's a hero who carried everyone. That double standard is exactly why this locker room culture is toxic and why thousands of fans are boycotting games. The message is crystal clear. Stephanie White does not want Caitlin Clark to shine. The fan reaction was immediate and absolutely savage. Social media exploded with brutal takedowns. One fan perfectly captured it. She tries to answer like Greg Popovich, but coaches like Doc Rivers. Another wrote, "This proves White actively doesn't want Clark to succeed." These aren't casual observers throwing hot takes. These are dedicated WNBA fans who have watched this toxic dynamic develop since draft night. They see a coach who's more concerned with protecting everyone's feelings than maximizing generational talent. And the financial impact is already devastating. Nearly 3,000 empty seats at Gainbridge Fieldhouse during their last home game. 3,000 empty seats for a player who sold out every arena she touched just 1 year ago. That's where Colin Cowherd's explosive segment becomes absolutely perfect timing. Cowherd compared Clark to Michael Jordan and made the exact parallel that White refuses to acknowledge. Jordan didn't win championships until he got Phil Jackson, a coach who understood how to build an entire system around transcendent talent. Clark is a heliocentric offensive force, a basketball genius who's most dangerous when everything flows through her. She needs the ball in her hands, making reads, dictating pace, creating for teammates through her gravitational pull. But White keeps trying to force her into this equal opportunity, 1990s basketball philosophy that actively diminishes the most potent offensive weapon in women's basketball. And the evidence keeps mounting that this coaching mismatch is destroying everything. New sideline footage just surfaced showing Clark in a heated argument with the coaching staff during a timeout. She was gesturing wildly, clearly fed up with the micromanagement, tired of being treated like a role player in an offense she should dominate. The body language was unmistakable. This is a superstar who's reached her breaking point with a coaching staff that doesn't understand her value. Meanwhile, the team sits at 2-2 with 2 overtime losses at home, and the fan boycott is growing stronger every game. Here's what's really wild about this situation. Nobody's questioning Stephanie White's basketball knowledge or character. She took this same team to the semifinals last year without Clark. She won the Commissioner's Cup. She's earned respect through 20 years of hard work. But as Cowherd perfectly explained, this is about fit, not competence. A great hammer and a great screw don't belong together. White's coaching philosophy and Clark's once-in-a-generation talent might simply be incompatible. And 4 games in, the evidence is overwhelming. The empty seats, the sideline arguments, the tone-deaf press conferences, everything points to a fundamental mismatch that's getting worse by the game. The most damning part is how easily this could be fixed if White would just drop her ego. First, she needs to give Clark credit when she earns it. When your franchise player drops 17 in the 4th quarter to save your job, acknowledge it publicly. Second, explain the rotation decisions that make no sense. Shawntori Walker-Kimbrough sits for 3 straight games, then gets 3 garbage time minutes. The fans deserve an explanation. Third, completely kill the off-ball narrative. Stop talking about making Clark play off the ball and just let her dominate the offense the way everyone knows she should. These aren't complicated fixes, but they require White to admit her approach isn't working. So there you have it. Colin Cowherd said out loud what millions of people were thinking. Caitlin Clark needs the right coach to unlock her championship potential. Whether that's Stephanie White evolved or Stephanie White replaced, something has to change immediately. The talent is undeniable. The fan base is ready to support a winner, but the coaching approach is actively sabotaging everything. The Fever play again this week, and every possession will be scrutinized at a microscopic level this franchise has never experienced. Here's my question for you. Is Cowherd absolutely right that Clark just needs a better coach, or can White fix this mess through tactical changes? Drop your wildest takes in the comments because this coaching controversy is just getting started. Smash that like button if you want the analytical truth nobody else will provide. Subscribe for more deep dive WNBA coverage, and hit the notification bell because this story is far from over. But wait, because this story just took another absolutely insane turn that proves Cowherd's coaching criticism was just the tip of the iceberg. Less than 24 hours after his nuclear take went viral, leaked audio from inside the Fever locker room surfaced, and what you're about to hear will completely change how you view this entire situation. Multiple sources confirmed that after that double overtime loss to Washington, Stephanie White held a closed-door team meeting where she specifically called out Clark's selfish basketball during that legendary 4th quarter comeback. You heard that right. The coach criticized her franchise player for the exact performance that kept them from getting blown out on national television. The audio is devastating, and here's the exact quote that has the basketball world absolutely losing their minds. "We can't have one player thinking she's bigger than the system, no matter how many points she scores." Think about the insanity of that statement. Clark literally saved White's job with that 4th quarter explosion, and White's response was to lecture her about fitting into a system that clearly doesn't work. This is like criticizing LeBron James for taking over Game 6 against Boston, or telling Kobe Bryant he should have passed more during his 81-point game. It's coaching malpractice disguised as team philosophy, and the locker room reaction was reportedly ice-cold silence. But here's where this gets even more explosive, because veteran players are starting to speak out anonymously, and what they're revealing is absolutely shocking. One unnamed starter told ESPN that the coaching staff has been actively trying to humble Clark since day one of training camp. Another veteran said White specifically designed plays to get other players more touches, even when Clark was clearly the hot hand. We're talking about deliberate sabotage of the most marketable player in women's basketball history, all because a coach is more concerned with veteran feelings than championship potential. The source said teammates are split down the middle, with younger players supporting Clark's aggressive style and veterans wanting her to wait her turn in an offense that hasn't won anything meaningful. And the timing of these leaks is absolutely perfect because it completely validates everything Cowherd said about coaching fit. Remember, he specifically mentioned how Michael Jordan struggled until Phil Jackson arrived and built the entire offensive system around Jordan's unique talents. Well, guess what just surfaced? Internal scouting reports from the Fever's analytics department that show Clark's efficiency drops 37% when she's forced to play off-ball in White's motion offense. 37%. That's not a small sample size anomaly. That's mathematical proof that the coaching strategy is actively making their best player worse. The same report shows that when Clark initiates offense and makes the primary read, the team's offensive rating jumps to 118 points per possession, which would be elite in any basketball league on the planet. The financial implications are getting absolutely catastrophic, and this is where team ownership has to be having emergency meetings behind closed doors. Season ticket holders are demanding refunds at unprecedented rates. The team's official merchandise sales have dropped 60% compared to last season's Clark Mania peak. Local television ratings for home games are down 43% in just 4 games. We're talking about millions of dollars in lost revenue because fans refuse to support a coaching staff that won't maximize generational talent. One season ticket holder posted their cancellation email on social media, and it went viral with over 2 million views. The message was simple: I'm not paying premium prices to watch Caitlin Clark get coached into mediocrity. Here's what makes this entire situation even more infuriating for fans who have been following this drama closely. Stephanie White had the perfect blueprint sitting right in front of her, and she chose to ignore it completely. Last season, when Cheryl Reeve coached the Minnesota Lynx, she built her entire offensive system around Nafisa Collier's unique skill set, and Collier had a career year that led to championship contention. When Becky Hammon took over the Las Vegas Aces, she immediately redesigned their offense to maximize Aja Wilson's dominance in the post and on the perimeter, and Wilson won back-to-back MVPs. These are recent examples of coaches adapting their systems to fit transcendent talent, not forcing transcendent talent to fit outdated systems. But White seems determined to prove some kind of philosophical point about team basketball that's completely divorced from winning basketball games. Sources inside the organization say she's been telling anyone who will listen that no player is bigger than the team, which sounds noble, until you realize she's applying that logic to a player who single-handedly saved women's basketball from financial collapse. Clark brought millions of new fans, unprecedented television ratings, and sold-out arenas everywhere she played. The idea that she needs to prove herself worthy of a system designed around her talents is absolutely backwards thinking that's destroying everything she built. The most damning evidence just dropped yesterday, and this is where Colin Cowherd's coaching criticism becomes prophetic. Video analysis experts broke down every possession from Clark's 17-point fourth quarter, and the results are mind-blowing. In the 13 possessions where Clark initiated the offense and had primary decision-making responsibility, the Fever scored on 11 of them. That's an 85% success rate that would make any NBA team jealous. But in the possessions where she was forced into White's structured sets, playing off screens and waiting for predetermined reads, they scored on just 4 of 9 attempts. The math is crystal clear. Clark dominates when she has freedom, struggles when she's constrained, yet White keeps constraining her because of some misguided philosophy about development and team chemistry.